Hello and welcome back to the shop. Today we are talking about the Mustang. This is going to be episode 1 of the build series on my 94 Mustang. We're going to do a walk around of the car, do a brief history of the car to talk about its history, how I came to be the owner of it, and if I've done anything to it before starting this build series. But if you want to see more, stay tuned and definitely like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more automotive content on this Mustang and the other projects now that I have a shop space. If you want to see more on the shop space, check out the last video on my channel. I'll put a link in the description or in the cards at the end of the video or something. Some quick history on the car. This is a 1994 Mustang. It is not a GT or a Cobra or a Terminator or a Shelby, anything like that. This is just the base model, so it came with a 3.8 liter V6. It made about 145 horsepower. As we can see, it's got all of the rounded body lines and everything. In 1999, they did kind of a mid-cycle refresh and added a bunch of like sharper edges and different wheel arches. And they call that the New Edge Mustang, but they're both fourth generation Mustangs. It's all the SN95 platform underneath. And this car specifically began its life in Texas. So it has pretty minimal amounts of rust considering it's in the Midwest now. I don't know when it originally came to the Midwest and started being driven on salty roads in the winter, but just looking over the car, most of the stuff underneath appears to be surface rust. The floor of the trunk where the spare tire sits is pretty rusted out, so that's actually going to have to get cut out and replaced with fresh metal because you can just kind of see straight through it, and you shouldn't be able to see through panels of your body. Yeah, so that's going to have to get fixed, but yeah, as we can see, I'll do a walk around in a minute, but the paint is in very rough condition. Being out in the sun down south in Texas, it just destroyed the clear coat. But we're gonna do a walk around and talk a little bit about this car. And then in this first video of the Mustang series, I'm gonna try and get the old V6 running. I knew it had some issues when I bought it, so I'm not expecting to save it or try and pretty up a V6 car. It's really not worth it. I bought it because the body's in good condition for being 29 years old. It's got minimal amounts of rust for being that old, and I think it would be a good platform to put something with a little bit more power under the hood. So let's do a walk around and see what we're starting with. Okay, starting the walk around of the Mustang. Interior is nothing special. Mustangs have never been known for having amazing interiors. Let me get on a handy dandy work light. So we can see that it is a manual. It's a 5-speed. It's got the T5 manual. The car has done 208,000 miles. You can see it is a true manual. It's got a clutch pedal and everything. We have some seat covers on the interior, so I haven't taken those off yet to see what it looks like underneath. It's definitely been used in here, but it's not destroyed. Headliner's actually in pretty good condition. We have some window tint on the back window that's peeling off, so I'll definitely have to remove that because that's just nasty. Some of the interior stuff, you can see it's baked in the sun pretty good. Some things are loose and falling apart, but not too bad. But we can see, you know, the rockers and everything look really good. Paint's in good condition. We kind of just do a walk around. We can see that all this sheet metal is still here. Doesn't look like it's been bondoed and a bunch of stuff. Right here, I don't know if this is a fiberglass bumper or not, but we can see it's the structure is still there. So it's got, I think the wing is from a newer Mustang. One of the previous owners must have put that on there. On this side, this is the only like body rust is right here around the fuel tank. And there is a slight dent, but overall, I can't really see any other signs of accidents or crashes or major repairs to the bodywork, so everything looks in pretty good condition. It's just a little bit dirty from being moved. We've got a couple bits of superficial rust around the doors. The front's looking okay. The headlights need some work, some repairs. Not sure if this is an aftermarket front bumper or not. Missing some of the grille stuff in the front. But yeah, we can see the paint is just, it's just gone. So that's okay. I would rather do paint than have to do rust repair and do a bunch of body work and straightening out crash damage. But yeah, you can see what direct sunlight for 30 years will do to the clear coat. It is, it's rough. On the hood, we can see some residue of double-sided tape and what appears to be stick-on hood vents, probably an AutoZone special at one point in its life. But yeah, it's not bent, it's not destroyed. Actually looks to be in decent condition. So we'll pop the hood, look at what's under there real quick. One other thing I forgot to mention on the hood, this is a fiberglass hood, so pretty sure it's aftermarket, but we've got some chipping and some cracking, so that can just be fixed easily. It's not really in the structure, it's just kind of superficial. So the hood's actually still in pretty decent condition. It's kind of raised up here, but that's because the hood is partially open. But yeah, shouldn't be too difficult to fix and make it nice if we want to keep this hood, but we'll talk about that in a second. So under the hood of this V6 Mustang, we see the 3.8 liter V6. Don't mind that sticker. We'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, looks pretty stock in here. We've got just the regular intake, serpentine belt, nothing in here. Looks to be too rusty. There is some rust on the brake booster. That's not terrible. Most stuff is just kind of dirty, but like you can see, this rust is just like light surface rust. That'll come off with a wire brush. I did put a new battery in here just because the old battery was dead, and we had to jump it in order to drive it onto the trailer when I bought it. This car has some oil leaks. You can see the valve cover is all gunky and covered in stuff. We'll go under the car in a second. But yeah, it was, when I bought it, the plan was to just let it sit in the garage until I had time to get to it. And it was dripping a little bit of oil underneath, but it got so bad, and it was leaking so fast, it just made a huge mess on the floor. So I just drained all the oil out of it so that it couldn't leak anymore. And then I just put that sticker on the, or that note on the engine so I would remember, hey, it has no oil, don't crank it over with no oil in it. But now we're gonna go under the engine and look at kind of the status of things underneath the car. Down here we see a little bit of rust, but it's really not bad. And part of that is because it was protected by a nice layer of oil. We can see the underside is just kind of filthy. We have some active oil drips, some leaks on the floor. I think this one is power steering because the power steering doesn't work. The whole tie rod is all wet. We have some active drips from the oil pan area. At least that's where it's dripping down. I don't know where it's originating from. We just put some fresh oil in it yesterday so I could crank it over, and we can see the stuff leaking out is nice and milky. It's like a light brown mixed with some chocolate. So that is signs that we're mixing oil and coolant, which is never good, probably a blown head gasket. But we'll do a compression test to verify. Moving further under the car, we can see again, pretty decent condition for a 29-year-old car. If we take a look under the middle here, got our other light, we can see, again, floor pan's in pretty decent shape. All the brake lines are in decent shape. We've got some light corrosion, but really nothing much The pinch welds are in pretty good condition. They're just kind of bent over a little bit. But yeah, main rusted part is the drive shaft, and then back here a little bit, we have some more rust, but it's not super serious. You can see it's like rusty on the bottom, but then it's like this is still good metal up here. If we look kind of up inside this opening, again, everything still looks pretty solid. Our rear control arms are okay. The diff just has some light rust on it. The top of the axle and the bottom side we can see is wet. So it looks like our rear axle, the seal is leaking on the housing cover. Oh, let's move around the car one more time and come back here to the very back of the car. You can see the bottom of the fuel tank cover. I don't think this is the fuel tank. I think this is just a sacrificial plastic piece. But this is the actual trunk well up here. We've got just surface rust. The actual metal is all still there. Like this square piece right here isn't all crusty and peeling and falling apart. We've got some stuff up here in the corners. Again, not too bad. The brake caliper is a little rusty, but still not horrible. Got some axle seals potentially going out. Oh, if we look even further up here, looks pretty clean up there. And then we'll show you the inside of the trunk, but this inside of the pan is probably the worst rust on the car. But like even these tank straps, like these brackets here, these are in pretty good condition, and these are just right here behind the wheels pretty much, getting anything and everything kicked up at them, and they're still in good condition. Just need to be cleaned up, but we'll go check out the trunk from the top side. All right, moving inside the trunk, we see the back side of the trunk is kind of dirty. I don't know what they were doing, but it looks like it's just got paint marker on it, and it's just scratched up, so it looks horrible, but it's all still there. This up here is just crusty and dirty. That's not exactly rust. We've got the floor is a little rusty. You can see up there behind the back seats. That's got some rust on it. Down here, we can see we've got some serious rust over here. You can just kind of poke it out. So this is probably holding water. The bottom we can definitely see right through. So that's not good. Let me hold the camera with the other hand. Yeah, if we move the carpets, again, rust. It's a little more severe than the other surface rust, but it's not bad. It's still good and strong. We got some big voids over there. But overall, it's not terrible. Yeah, we can see it's dirty, but it's really not too rusted back here, aside from the floor of the spare tire well. But yeah, that's the back of the car. It's difficult to see because it's fresh oil, so it's basically the same color as the dipstick, but we put in 5 quarts of oil. This has a capacity of 5 quarts, so it should be full. And unless it's all leaked out in the last 30 seconds, I think we can try and start it up. Power steering might be going, but that's okay. Brakes are a joke, but we're moving. Did a little test drive around the parking lot and brought it back inside. It was blowing a lot of white smoke, and it wasn't just from the cold. I put this oil pan to catch the oil drips yesterday, and this is how much oil has leaked out already. This looks like something I would order at a burger place as a milkshake. That's not what oil is supposed to look like. So yeah, this is very not good for the health of the engine. We are going to pull the fuel pump relay from the fuse box. So after I figure out how to get this open, kind of broke that a little bit, but that's okay. Nice relay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breaker, see owner's manual. Okay, great. Let me just pull out my phone. Okay, horn relay, starter relay. Okay, 30, 60. This 20 amp should be the fuel pump. So we are going to pull that one. There we go. If I click the ignition into the on position, we should not hear the fuel pump. Alrighty, time to get to the spark plugs. This should be fun. Okay, let's talk about my plan for this car and this engine. So we've got a nice new battery in it. We were able to start it, do a compression test, take it out and drive it for a little bit. And I might do a little bit more diagnosis today, but I'm 99% sure that we either have a crack in the block or a blown head gasket, because we are absolutely mixing coolant and oil. So that's not good. It could be fixed unless it's a crack in the block, in which case it's not fixable. You'd have to find the crack, weld it, do a bunch of stuff to it. It's not worth fixing. I would like to put a Coyote engine in here. Now I know that's not unique, you know, it's not the first person that's done it. I probably won't be the last, but I think the best plan for this car, because the engine is blown, the transmission is, you know, kind of weak. It's done 200,000 miles. The rear axle is the smaller, I think it's like a 7-inch, or it's like an 8-inch rear. It's not the 8.8, the one that everyone wants for drifting. So it can't handle that much torque either. So I'm thinking we do a whole driveline swap. We want to do a new engine, a new trans, and a new rear axle, so that way everything is going to work together. We know it can handle the horsepower, and we have modding potential, so in the future, we can throw power at it and have more fun with it. So what I want to do is find a wrecked car, something on Copart, whatever, try and find something that's got a good driveline, but a wrecked body, and I will swap it. So we take the good driveline out of the bad body, put it into the car with the good body, at least solid body, and with a bad driveline. So we can kind of take two cars that are both half bad, combine them so we have one good car and then one bad car that can go to the scrapyard, and I won't feel bad about letting that one go and not saving a Mustang. So in this case, we are saving this car, we're saving this chassis, but we're using components from a newer car. The 2010 to 2014, they had the first generation Coyote. They still had, obviously still had manual transmissions. They had the 8.8 rear axle, and it was a solid axle. So we're not gonna try and convert this chassis to independent rear suspension. It's got a solid axle, we'll just keep it a solid axle, but we'll use stuff from a newer car So it has more technology, more power, more modding potential. Everything is gonna work with itself because it came from the factory already combined. So we'll just take the engine, the transmission, and the axle from a newer car, from a newer Mustang, I should specify. We'll take the driveline from a newer Mustang, put it into this older Mustang, and kind of do a resto mod, even though it's only jumping one generation ahead. So we put parts from a 5th generation into a 4th generation. I know it won't be that simple. The platforms are obviously different, the chassis are different, the wheelbase is different. So we're gonna have to still do some customization to make things fit. But I think by taking all the driveline components from a car that was working and then got crashed, and just kind of do a chassis swap, if you will. So all the driveline components, the cooling, the radiator, stuff like that, we can just put into this chassis, and then we can have a lighter, slightly smaller Mustang that's got the power of a newer Mustang. And that's kind of my plan for this car. So if you want to see that, going forward, definitely subscribe to the channel. I think next video we are going to be either taking the engine out and doing a teardown to try and see if we can find out where it's leaking from, or we will start doing body prep, checking out the interior, taking the seats out, giving it a good clean, and figuring out what we can keep, what we're gonna have to fix, and what we might try and take from a newer Mustang. So like if the seats are torn up, we'll try and put new seats in it, that type of thing. And then there's plenty of body work and a little bit of rust repair in the trunk that can keep us busy in the meantime while I figure out how to buy a salvaged Mustang. This is going to conclude our first video on the Mustang. So if you want to see more, definitely subscribe and leave a like down below if you enjoyed the video. Leave me a comment. What would you do in my position? You've got a clean body Mustang that's nice and solid. You've got a blown engine. What would you put in it? What would you do to it? You know, but yeah, thank you guys again so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.